It is day number 5, and today we're going to be talking about signs that your horse trusts you. So we're going to be diving into the things that we can be aware of, as well as, of course, some good leadership tactics on how to best serve our horses as leaders so they can build that trust in our relationship. And of course, those signs that so we can tell that we're actually making some headway and that our horse is actually building the trust with us. So we're only 5 days into our 30-day Q&A challenge, guys, where we're talking about all things horsemanship and, well, personal development, because that's part of being a great horseman, a great horsewoman. But, last night we launched our ebook, and Amanda, who asked the very first question on day number 1 about asking about how do you work with a horse, what would you do with a horse that only wants to canter or lope, you guys can go back and listen to that whole first answer. But last night she said, hey, thank you so much for the ebook, and by the way, that exercise you gave me is working great. I barely have to touch my reins before she's checking in now, and she's working so much smoother and more relaxed. Can't wait to try more things. So I am super, super pumped. We're only 5 days in. Amanda, I am so happy that that exercise is working for you, and I can't wait to keep helping you out with your horses along the way. And for anyone else that has questions, we're diving deep into these. We're going to be diving deep into this question today and ultimately talking about deep leadership and identifying the signs of building trust with our horses. Now, this question today comes from Kathleen, and she submitted this a couple days ago. She's actually got a horse in training with us right now. Horse named Tuco. You might have seen him on our Instagram stories. He's a paint horse, super cute fella. He's coming along really, really well. And so Kathleen says, very much enjoy learning from these sessions. Often you speak about the relationship you have with your horse. I assume that a good one is built on trust. My question is, what are the signs that your horse trusts you? I think I may confuse him liking me for trusting me. So that's a super, super strong observation, Kathleen, because the fact of the matter is that sometimes that is the case. Sometimes we think that because our horses like us, that they trust us. And we have to think that if we go through our own lives and do a little inventory, that sometimes there's things that we like, but we wouldn't necessarily trust. And so it's really important that we're able to differentiate this. And I've taken some notes. Usually with all of these videos, I take some notes because I think it's really important that I can provide deep, deep value to each of you guys on this. So let's go ahead and dive into building signs of trust, or how to identify signs of trust when we're developing that relationship with our horse. And the first piece that comes to mind for me when I'm developing that relationship with my horse and developing that trust with my horse is that my horses need to feel safe. And when a horse does feel safe, they're going to feel comfortable, and then therefore they can relax. But if a horse in our vicinity, and we're talking about just with us, right? If a horse is with us, and when they're with us, they do not feel safe, they cannot trust what is going on. And this is talking about a 30,000 foot view, that if you enter the presence of your horse and your horse gets a little uneasy, a little unsure, all those types of things, it could be a representation that that horse might lack a little bit of trust in that. So the one thing we have to work with our horses is to develop we have to meet their need for safety, because they are prey animals, right? They're fight, flight, or freeze animals. And so it's really, really pivotal that we can make sure that we're providing an environment, but we're also providing the energy, the guidance, the leadership for our horses to help them feel safe. All right, so if our horses don't feel safe, it's going to be hard for them to reach that next level of developing that trust. And that's the very first piece. And I think about this when I'm working with even wild Mustangs, right? Wild Mustangs that, for us, we look like predators. We are predators. They're feral. They have a really strong fight, flight, or freeze instinct. And so when I start working with those wild Mustangs, the very first piece is that I'm trying to work with them on them understanding that I am there to help them feel safe. I'm there to provide some guidance, and so we're going to go through the deeper elements in that, but I'm really trying to prove to that horse and convince that horse that I can help them feel safe. Okay, so that's really important with that. Now, the second piece that I think about when I'm looking for signs that my horse trusts me is that they willingly seek or receive guidance in times of concern. All right, so I'll say that again, that they willingly seek or at least receive guidance in times of concern. And the reason that I say this is because in times of concern, it's easy for our horses to go to fight, flight, or freeze, as we discussed with them needing to feel safe. But in the times of concern, if we establish enough trust with our horses, we can get them to use more of a thinking state of mind, a more responsive versus reactive state of mind, and therefore they are willing to communicate. They were willing to take guidance from us. Now, this opens up an entire can of worms as far as all the elements that we need to have in place within our own leadership and what our horses need to have within their education. But it's really important to understand that in times of concern exposes things, right? Times of pressure, times of worry exposes what's beneath the surface. And so that's why I identify in times of concern, how does our horse either respond or react to that moment and if hopefully we're providing guidance, because a good leader provides guidance to their followers in times of concern. So given we try to provide guidance to our horses in times of concern, does our horse willingly receive that or even seek our guidance when they start to feel concerned? Or do they go to a natural state of mind, which is not personal, it is natural state of mind, right? They're not blowing you off for something, but they're going through the way that their brain is naturally engineered to go, hey, fight, flight, or freeze. I got to do something to save myself. But as I develop that trust with my horse, when they start to feel concerned, I would like them to seek me. I would really like my horses to seek my guidance. And if I'm not to that point in my horse's relationship, then I'm making sure that I'm aware enough that when I feel my horse getting concerned, that I can provide guidance to them, and then they willingly receive that guidance. Now, this is an important piece to understand, is that a horse can willingly receive guidance just sheerly based on obedience, but it not necessarily be built on trust. And so trust is one of those things that's a piece of our relationship, and it's built on how we do things with our horses. And so it's important to understand that if a horse is strictly obedient and the relationship isn't necessarily really built on trust, that usually the horse or anything that is strictly built on obedience, they're going to meet thresholds sooner because they don't have that deeper sense of connection. So you can get really far with obedience, but at some point there's a good chance that you will cross something with that horse, or that horse will cross something, and it will trigger them emotionally enough to where, because there is no trust in the situation, obedience isn't going to be enough to coach them through it. So when I'm educating horses and when I'm helping people educate their own horses, I find that it's really important that, yes, we do get our horses to where they're willingly guided, they willingly take direction from us, and that they are obedient, but also that we're presenting things in a way that we're building a relationship with our horses. So we're building the trust with our horses in the process of educating them on tactical skill sets, okay? Actual maneuvers and exercises, and then we're building all of these relationship pieces in how we're doing it. And how we're doing. That's how I define my working partnership, is that when I'm trying to build a working partnership with my horses, that means that I am trying to have a horse that is willing to go to work and willing to put in the work and go to work with me while also having that partnership. So we're learning all these skill sets, but also developing our relationship and that partnership at the same time. So the other thing I want to throw in here, I'm going to break this down just a little bit further for you guys today, is that when we are developing our horses' educations, we're developing good followers, right? We want our horses to be willing to follow our lead. And so, therefore, that requires us to be a good leader. And you guys have heard me mention this ebook. It is available now. We are going to link it below. And I think it's only applicable to share this with you. It's a free ebook, absolutely, totally free. You just plug your email in and we send it straight to your inbox. You can download it. It's 28 pages. It has a full-on workbook with 5 different principles, 5 horse training exercises, and 5 personal development exercises. All of these things have fundamentally changed and transformed my relationships with my horses, as well as how I live my everyday life and how I interact with my horses, and ultimately has led me to be able to teach in this manner and help you with your own horses. But the reason I bring that up is because we named that ebook Be a Leader Worth Following. And when we're talking about building trust with our horses, we need to be a leader worth following. We need to be a leader that they can trust. And so if at any time was applicable to download that ebook, it's going to be right now. And so I'm going to give you 3 more points on this particular topic. And as a leader, there's 3 things we really need our horses to do. The first one is that we need them to really know who we are. And the fact is that if we're not honest with our horses, they know that we're not honest with them. So that means that we really have to be honest, transparent with our horses, and therefore we have to be the same way with ourselves before we can ever be that with our horses. So we really have to be transparent, honest, and expose the ugly truths and work through those things with ourselves and be honest with our horse. When you feel scared, be honest with your horse and make adjustments to benefit the both of you and your relationship there. There's a lot of work that we need to do with our horses, and there's a lot of work we need to do with ourselves, by ourselves, away from our horses. So first thing is they need to know who you are, because ultimately you're building a relationship. You need to know your horse, and they need to know you. And if you lead by example, leaders go first, and you tell your horse who you are, and you be who you are every single day, and therefore give your horse permission to be who they are with no judgment and no criticism for just being who they are. All right. The second thing is they need to like you. So Kathleen, this is a really good piece. Liking, your horse does need to like you, but there's a difference between like and trust. And in order to be a good leader, them liking you is a pivotal ingredient in that whole recipe. So I'm going to say that, that's a whole topic in itself. A lot of people are really good at getting their horses to like them. They just don't have a horse that really trusts them or is willingly taking guidance. So if you have the liking piece, you have a really good quality ingredient there, but we also have to build up the know piece, we have to build up the trust piece, and then we have to build up our own skill sets aside from that to be able to communicate with our horses more effectively. And that's another skill of leadership for sure. So then we've already mentioned that within the trust, is that our horses have to feel safe, right? They have to feel safe. And within feeling safe, I'm going to kind of pick this piece of paper up because I wrote some pretty small notes here, is that, they can tell that we're aware and that we have a sense of awareness, because leaders in a herd are aware of everything that's going on around them, and then they're willing to communicate, hey, I noticed this and we need to make an adjustment and do X, Y, or Z. That keeps the herd safe. And horses can let themselves down mentally around a leader who makes them feel safe. And that means that we have to be intentional. We have to be forthright. We have to be willing to make changes and adjust from moment to moment based on our horse's needs. And all of this requires presence. You guys will hear me talk about this time and time and time again. You guys will hear me talk about this in the ebook. The importance of presence, the importance of being aware of them physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And the last little piece I'm going to throw in here is that trust is not built in the soft, cushy times that we go through with our horses when everything's just fine and dandy, right? Trust really is built in trying times. And so I'm not going to go super, super deep into this piece, but we have to understand that it is important as we develop the relationship with our horse is that we can grow stronger together as we navigate tricky situations that make us slightly uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that we can't handle it. That actually gets into one of the principles in the ebook, which is talking about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And that means that we have the tools, the skills, the knowledge, the understanding behind how to navigate uncomfortable situations. And when we can navigate uncomfortable situations with our horses, we can grow stronger and closer together. We can develop that trust because we've taken all of these pieces I've already talked about in this video and bring them into a real situation and really build a deep relationship. So without further ado, guys, I hope this helps you with your horses. We're going to catch you guys tomorrow on day number 6.